and welcome to the Executive Room podcast, where we delve deep into the minds of remarkable executives who have shaped the business world with their ideas and actions. I'm your host, Kimberly Afonso, CEO and founder of the KA Consulting Group. Today, we're honored to host Andrew McConnell, a legendary leader whose journey and challenges through the Silicon Valley narrative are really interesting. Andrew's academic achievements include graduating with honors from Harvard College, Harvard Law School, and the University of Cambridge, all while earning an international bronze medal as a member of the USA Open Water Swimming National Team. Very impressive. Andrew's professional path with roles in banking, law, and consulting culminated in the founding of Rented. He propelled the company from under 200,000 in revenue to nearly 10 million in sales in less than 3 years, earning 2 Inc. 500 recognitions. Beyond entrepreneurship, Andrew's impact extends to his role as a board member of Sheltering Arms and Atlanta Technology Leaders. So, thank you so much, Andrew, for joining us today. Your background, as I mentioned, is really impressive, a great story of determination. Looking back to your earlier days right before Harvard, what were your aspirations and career goals, and did they change dramatically over the following years?
They definitely changed dramatically. I mean, as a teenager, I was very, very focused on swimming. I was at a school, at my high school, my last year and a half, we very competitive swimming school. And I qualified for the national team the summer after my senior year in high school. And then you're going into an Olympic year, et cetera, et cetera. And I planned to defer a year and not go to college and just focus on swimming and I can go to college later. So at that point in my life, I wasn't super career focused. It was living in now. I can swim now. Let me go after swimming and do all that. I ended up with a lot of discouragement from my parents not deferring a year and telling Harvard I'm not going to go there, and ended up going and really loved my time there. And it was one of those things that in college, I ended up getting injured and not competing at the same level kind of after my freshman year. And so I had this identity crisis of, wait, my whole life was built around swimming and competing at this level. And so that's where I think, as I was looking for a new identity, got more focused on my education and really doubling down there and looking at law school and thinking longer term, what did I want to do? And yeah, it's so that's why I went to law school. I ended up getting exactly what I thought I wanted in terms of focus as a lawyer, and got the dream job, did it and really didn't enjoy it. And so I ended up going to consulting, said, well, that's not really what I thought it was. Because I didn't, no one in my family were attorneys. So I didn't know what the job actually entailed, what it looked like. And so then went to consulting and tried out a bunch of different things and then got the bug to starting my own companies. And I've been doing that for the past 11 years.
Amazing story. And how did your athletic experience contribute to your professional growth? Is there anything you took from being an athlete and applied when you were starting, for example, your companies?
A ton of things. I mean, one, the discipline of, even when you're not feeling great, you show up to practice and you do the work. So there are certain days you may not feel like it, but you just do it. And I do a lot of writing. Have nonfiction book, fiction. When I first started writing fiction, some of my friends that would read it, they're like, I could see you coming at this like a swimmer, where you would just come in and you would just grind out the work, because some of this is not great. Whereas with nonfiction, I think it works a little better because you can have an outline and you just kind of force through it, and then you can fix it on the editing side. Fiction's a little trickier like that. So I think the discipline was a really big piece. And then also just the confidence of coming in and swimming. I started maybe a little late doing year-round swimming. I mean, some of these people, I think my wife was doing 2-day practices at 7 years old in the UK. And I didn't really start doing that till I was 13 or 14, when I was getting more serious. And when I first started, I was swimming in the group with 7-year-olds. I came in and I was not good. I was the bottom of my age group. I was the slowest person. But by just working harder every single time, every practice, go and work harder, was able to work my way up. And having that confidence of, hey, I might not know something yet, but really taught me that growth mindset of, wait, if I put in the work, I could probably get, I know I can get a much better than I am today, and I could probably get at a very good level if I'm willing to put the work in. And so going in and starting a company, right? It's terrifying. Like, I don't know anything about this, and starting from scratch, everything. But I'm someone who will work hard, and I'm relatively smart, and I think I can figure it out. If I go put in the time and the effort, I think I can figure it out. And I think those are and continue to be two things that really serve me through the rest of my life, far more than the time spent in the pool.
And did you apply some of your background from diverse industries to your entrepreneurial success? You know, it's not every day that someone gets a degree in one area and then works in many, and then, you know, your companies were in a completely new sector. So, how did you apply that diverse background to your advantage?
Yeah, there's a really good book. I forget the exact title, but it's about the Renaissance, and what they did a really good job of was pulling from diverse disciplines to create these new things, and then carrying that into the modern day of like, hey, here are examples how you can really do that. And even I think Scott Adams talked about that of like, look, I'm not the best business person, I'm not great at drawing, and I'm not the funniest comedian in the world, but if I do those three things in combination, I'm bringing these things together. The Dilbert cartoons, like that, I'm the best at that world, that very specific bringing these together. And I think the same has held true. I mean, even the first company that I started, Vacation Futures, was this marketplace business through reverse auctions. And it came very much around my negotiations class in law school, and how one of the guys said he bought cars. And that kind of structure that he had, I was like, well, why would that structure apply in this industry? Could there be something interesting there? And that was a business that absolutely took off, right? Nobody had thought about it in that way and applied that kind of thing. And so I think it's an ongoing piece of, the more that I learn, whether it's stuff that I'm doing or I'm reading or I'm listening to people, that I just have more mental models and examples of saying, oh, that thing from over there, that's not really been applied here, but maybe it could fit really well. Let me try that. And so I think that variety, you could see it as, oh, master of none, like you're kind of shallow on a bunch of things. But if you can go deep in one area and shallow in a bunch of others, then maybe you can start applying and get even deeper and deeper, and more impactful in the area where you're focused.
Very well said. And, you know, we were really impressed when we read that you founded Rented, as I mentioned at the beginning, less than 200,000 in revenue to nearly 10 million in under 3 years, which is an amazing 50 times increase. The company was acquired by TravelNet Solutions, where you hold the GM revenue management role. Given the recent unprecedented challenges faced by the hospitality industry, how is the company supporting clients, overcoming obstacles related to, you know, the ongoing global current situation?
Yeah, so if you think about software technology and everything, there are really two big buckets that you can have impact. And one is, it can be a cost savings, it's making you so much more efficient, you're saving money. The other is, does it actually generate revenue? And the interesting thing with what we had built with Rented and what TravelNet had acquired is, unlike most, it is a revenue generator where we can take objective data and say, you gave us $1 to buy this. We can show you each month, for each dollar you give us, we give you 11. So I'm not asking you to say, hey, look, here's how it'll make you 10% more efficient, or it compares to this software. It's saying, this is a money machine. You go turn it on, and we just give you more money each month. And in a more difficult time, like kind of 22 into 23, now 24 looks like it'll pick up a bit. Being able to have that money machine is really impactful. And people don't always believe it because they can feel, there's the psychological trick that even if you're moving forward, if someone is moving forward faster next to you, then it feels like you're going backwards. And you'll see this sometimes on trains. If you're kind of in the Northeast and there are multiple trains, and there's a train going faster, you feel like you're going backwards when you're standing next to it, or a moving sidewalk. And so that would happen sometimes with revenue, where we say, hey, look, we're actually doing great. They say, no, but it feels like we're going backwards. We're not growing as much as we did last year. I say, yeah, but the market is down 17% and you're up 2%. So you're actually up 19% on the market. So you need to think about what the perspective you're taking is, which is why having really good data to compare to get a sense on that benchmark is really important. So I would say that's the number one thing. I mean, constantly try to innovate, try to listen to the pain that people may be experiencing and build to that, but then also make sure you're delivering measurable impact and that you and your clients can see the same thing there, that you're having the same conversation on what that impact is.
And as you mentioned, great data, which is definitely so important for any company, especially in your sector. Segueing to AI, as it's been such a hot topic this year, how has the sudden rise of AI affected the processes at your company? Is it something you were already using? Is it something directly related to your role? Can you tell us a bit about how AI is really affecting your company?
Yeah, I mean, it's still insanely early days for AI, but I don't think it's an exaggeration when people say, it could be 10 times, 100 times more impactful than everything going online, of how much unlock it could have. And whether it's automating a bunch of things that people had to do before and say, oh my God, right? Like this can take 70% of this person's time away. And now they can do this 30% so much better. And that so much better may be worth 5 times more, even though they're putting 3 times more in it. That extra bit could be so much more valuable. So going back to the efficiency side, there's also, I mean, just very practically on coding, it's just made engineers much more efficient. It's in any industry. My wife is an attorney. We talk about it would be very difficult coming in as a new associate now as an attorney. We are educating way too many attorneys because the former model is you need this big base of associates to feed work into partners that are reviewing. Now you had a good associate with AI, they could do the work of 10 associates and then the partner's still reviewing, but you didn't need 10 different humans doing that. And so who knows what that means longer term for law schools? Like what's Shakespeare was first kill all the lawyers, which I hope they don't, because my wife's a lawyer. But maybe all those people that went into law, they could go do more creative things, better things for society going forward. So how we're using it is really right now, I would say early days, creating greater efficiency, greater unlocks. I don't think that killer application of like, wow, this is something net new that is coming out has really happened yet. Because even if it's on data insights, right? Like it'll make the data science team more efficient in what it's looking at and how it's looking at it and how it's applying it. But it's not this brand new thing that would have not otherwise happened. Everything is just, it's happening much faster, much better, higher quality, much more quickly. I'll be curious wow, this is a thing that if it wasn't for AI, this would never have happened. And this is this brand new, whether it's a feature, it's a new product, it's a new industry. That's the thing that I'm really curious to see.
Yeah, and I definitely think, going into the coming years, we will definitely see that, and that'll be interesting across sectors. So, thinking about hospitality, your industry, also, technology in general, looking ahead, what key strategies do you think will be crucial for businesses to thrive in the coming years?
Yeah, when you think about the hospitality side specifically, I think being able to incept and generate net new travel desire and travel demand. So everything that I can think of or have seen has been reactive to demand coming in. So Airbnb is great, and you optimize within Airbnb to make sure you show up, or VRBO, or your own site. But it depends on someone saying, hey, I want to proactively go to Airbnb and look what's there and decide if I want to travel for certain dates or whatever. And Airbnb's done a very, very good job of pushing that further back, where you say, hey, you don't need a specific location. You don't even necessarily need specific dates. Like, just go and make this a place that you browse and create your favorites list. And it becomes this kind of inspirational idea. But you still need to proactively go to Airbnb. I think with AI, with a bunch of the data we're getting, companies can get better at incepting the idea of travel with prior guests and going to them and say, hey, look, you came in August for a week last year. Did you know you can get the month of October or the month of November for the same price you paid for that 1 week at this amazing house that we know you love? Because you know on your side, hey, it's empty. I know that they're 2 hours drive away. Like, you can do all these things that AI and the data sets can start creating these correlations and know exactly who to target, when, with what message, what property, what price, all of it put together. Where the person said, look, I had no plans to travel, but we have a more flexible remote work schedule. I do love that house. To be able to do that, sure. Like, let's go spend the month of November there. That's not something I would have ever contemplated 2019 or before, but we live in this new world. Maybe that's the thing I'll now do. And I just, to me, that's the most exciting opportunity that I haven't seen anyone tackle adequately. And whoever solves that, I think will be that next big unlock on revenue generation, because we're not just reacting with, oh, better photos if you're looking, or better description if you're looking, or better price if you're looking. It's, I'm taking the right message to you at exactly the right time to turn on this idea that you've never even had before.
Wow. Well, maybe that needs to be your next business, Andrew, because when you were speaking about it, I was just thinking, I wish that existed. I would be happy to be target number one. So, what a great opportunity to unlock.
Thank you. Yeah, my next business is going to be a pretty different foray than that, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that later. That would
Okay.
be interesting if you can share a little bit about it.
Cool.
Moving to a bit about leadership, what I found really interesting is that you're a self-proclaimed stoic, which is great, and navigating the business world can definitely be challenging. So how do you in general approach decision making, especially when faced with uncertainty? Are there specific stoic principles in general that guide your leadership style?
Yeah, I mean, one minor correction there. I would say I'm not a Stoic as much. I'm a student of Stoicism, because I don't think I can claim that, I'm Seneca or Marcus Aurelius, that like I consistently live this, but I have what I study and what I try to aspire to, right? And there's certainly, if you had to distill all of it back, it's trying to remind myself, what are the things that I control and don't. And because I can find myself like going down and getting so upset, or manifesting ideas, and then, me of 10 years ago, I might spend a week doing that, and then studying Stoicism. Okay, maybe I spend a couple days, and then study, get better, maybe it's a couple hours, and it's, oh wait, it's a couple minutes. Or right when that idea comes in, say, okay, I could start following that idea and waste that time, but that's not something I can do anything about. What can I do about, oh, I could start getting prepared of, if this is true, what can I do in the business? What should I be saying to the team? What are the things within my control? And so that really trying to find that inner equanimity and that outer effectiveness through parsing out what's in my control, what's not, and what's in my influence. And what do I want to influence? What do I want to spend my time, my attention, my focus on?
Very well said. And congratulations on the success of your book, Get Out of My Head. It leads to Stoicism with stories of modern Stoics who have successfully reclaimed their mental space, or people who practice Stoicism. Could you share one or two inspiring examples from these stories?
For sure. And it was very deliberate in the book of trying to pull kind of historical examples, not just from the ancient Roman Greek Stoics themselves, but former Supreme Court justices or people from the Civil War going back, as well as a lot of modern stories from social activists, from Navy SEALs, from Olympians and entrepreneurs, whatever it is, artists, to try to make it where it's not, hey, this one person is what a Stoic is, right? Like it's not this old dead white guy in Greece or Rome. Okay, it's not this one tech bro profile here. It's these are all everybody in this walk of life. Whether and this was a debate with the publisher too of does it need to be Stoic? Could it be ancient wisdom? Because there's stuff in the book on Taoism, there's stuff in the book on Buddhism and Judaism and other things of these are innate human truths that different people at different points in time in history were coming to in their own words that sound very, very similar when you're translating them to English now. And so I think there are a few examples. One was a guy that used to be my neighbor who was born, they thought he was dead, had oxygen cut off, and then they thought he was mentally impaired and would never be able to speak, read, do anything. They thought, this guy like barely just keep him alive. And even though he's wheelchair bound, couldn't move, ended up sneakily while his mom's working at night, teaching himself to read by taking his twin sister's books and crawling in the bathroom and teaching himself to read. And then it ended up when they had him in a home and then got him into the public school. And they thought, okay, we're going to put him in second grade at this age. And then he tested and he was like ninth or 10th grade because he had mentally taken himself. And then he graduated, I want to say like second or third in his class in high school, and he's a gay Black man who's disabled that is in rural Louisiana, like everything he had to go through, and goes out and becomes a speaker and inspirational, moves to Atlanta to go to college, like goes out on his own. Becomes this public speaker, mostly through Christian organizations, the church and everything. And someone within his church found his phone and found out he was homosexual and said, hey, I'm going to blackmail you if I'm going to tell them and you're going to lose all your speaking if you don't. And he outed himself. He's like, I'm not going to do that. And so blew up his whole world and had to find new. And he would take his wheelchair next to me when I would walk my dog at night because we were neighbors in the same condo. And one night we were walking and he'd say, Andrew, I'm just the luckiest guy in the world. Like I get to go and tell this story and do this and see these people get so inspired. And I'm thinking, wow, the person that could go through all of these things. And he's sitting here telling me he's the luckiest person in the world. And it really reframed gratitude for me. Because we think about gratitude practice. And it's like, okay, let me count all the things that I'm grateful for today. Like, oh, great, I have my health. Oh, great, I have this. Like the things that if you would ask me 5 years ago what I want, I'm going to be grateful for the things that I got that I wanted before. But what the Stoics would say, what he was saying was, look, I'm grateful for the things that I would never have wished for. Like I would never have wished, before I'm born, if I'm looking down and saying, you know what I want to do? I want you to put me in a very poor family in rural Louisiana with like all of these things I'm going to have to fight against for my entire life. Never going to ask for that. But where I stand now, I'm going to go back and say, I'm grateful for all that. Like I am so lucky that happened to me because it made me who I am. And I love who I am. And so I don't know that was a story. It just always gets me. That one. Another one, I would say, maybe Kat Cole, who she was, I don't think she went to college. She started as a Hooters hostess at like 17. And then when she was 18, she could be a server because she aged up. And then within like a year was opening, because she was just so good, was opening Hooters all over the world. She'd fly to Australia, Argentina, Bahamas, and she was just opening Hooters because she was just so good at what she did. And she had a early client, the franchise owner in Buenos Aires, who there was this whole back and forth and they had all sorts of issues. But he taught her, hey, when you hear criticism, always assume that it's true. Just start from that premise. Because then that turns off your defensive walls and you can start digging in for what that kernel of truth in there is. And guys, like, okay, well, that's really good advice. So she took that. And then when she moved to the corporate world, most people would sit in their offices and everything, and you'd get quarterly reviews or annual reviews. And she'd say everything she would come up with, she'd just go into the restaurants because the feedback would be real time. She'd see or hear directly from the servers or the customers, like what these changes look like, what that feedback was. And it ended up leading her. She became the president of Focus Brands. So she bought Jamba Juice and Carvel and Moe's and like all these restaurants. She owned all these restaurants. And then she left and she's now the president of Athletic Greens, AG1, the all-in-one nutrition supplement. And this idea of, because I still have a really hard time with it, I have a very, very hard time with it, of when you hear criticism, how personally you take it and this attack on your being, and being able to reframe it as, okay, there's something true in there, right? This may not at all been what I meant when I did this or when I said that, but it kind of doesn't matter because clearly there is something in there that's making them see it or perceive it or whatever it is that way. So what is that kernel of truth? Maybe it wasn't my intention. Maybe it was the tone I used. Maybe it was the timing that I communicated. There are all these things that you can start to learn if you open yourself up to that. So those are two. I mean, there are a bunch in there, right? Like it's like picking your favorite child. I only have one, so that's fortunate for me with my children. But with the stories in the book, there are a lot of really good ones, I think.
Those are great ones. We'll all have to read the book afterwards, but loved both of those and so much for us to take from them. And Andrew, this podcast, as you know, is all about vocal leadership. You are really vocal online. You have a super great profile. You've written a book. You have a great LinkedIn where people can learn a lot about you. What advice would you give to other CEOs or founders looking to start to be vocal online? How can they get started? And are there any processes or tools that you've learned from writing a book and managing your profiles that others can learn from?
Yeah, I mean, there are two things, and they may seem contradictory, and maybe as I articulate them, they'll seem less contradictory. But the first is you don't have to have an opinion on everything. And so find out what it is that you want to communicate on, be known for, make an impact around, and be focused. Stick to it so that you're known for the things that matter. Where I find people get in trouble either in the back and forth or in trouble in diluting their engagement and their profile is being peanut butter, just spreading on everything. I'm going to weigh in on everything everywhere. Well, you don't know everything about everything, right? So, and people aren't going to come to you on every single little thing, right? Like, what is it that's the area of your expertise to stay in? So I think that's one thing. The flip side of that is not communicating, not doing something is still a choice. And so recognizing that not taking a stand on something is also making choice. And that choice may be, hey, I just don't publicly want to do this. It's saying, look, I actually don't know the right answer here, whatever it is, but recognize and make it conscious when you're making that decision of our actions, make our inactions and silence conscious as well. Because a lot of times we just default to something, and that's making a statement one way or the other. And so make sure you're thinking through what am I saying by not saying something here as well.
That's really great advice. And you've had a lot of great speaking engagements and TED Talks, and your audiences are really diverse, can be early career professionals, startup founders, people in hospitality. Do you have a favorite type of event or audience to address? And if so, why?
I think rather than profile, it's a mindset. So the best are the people really coming in that want to learn. This is something that they take seriously, they're curious about, and there's more of the back and forth, right? Ideally, I'm not talking at someone, it's a conversation. And that can be hard if you're speaking to 19,000 people, whatever it is, right? Like it's very hard to make it a conversation, but there is a subconscious conversation if the person's engaged. And you see it in the book signings afterwards and everything, because people they're like, oh my God, I think you were looking at me because you know I'm going through this thing right now that needs exactly what you were saying there. Those are my favorite people to engage with, because they're getting something from it. And it's not just, oh, okay, it's this profile or it's this sports team or whatever it is. It's no, it is there someone, or more than one person ideally, in the audience that will leave this and tomorrow's going to be different and better than today. Because so often we can listen to a podcast, we read a book, we go to a talk, and oh my God, it's a sugar high, I feel great. Everything's going to be different, and then go to sleep and wake up the next morning and tomorrow is just like yesterday. But when you have that engagement and that back and forth, even if it's subconscious, even if the back and forth is entirely in their head, right? You're projecting and they're doing the back and forth, then that opens the door for change, and change for the better, that they've taken it on. Because people say, oh, how do you inspire people to do this? How do you motivate? I don't. I can create opportunities for people to inspire themselves and motivate themselves, but I'm going to be gone. The book's going to be put down. The TED Talk's going to end. The speech is going to be over. They're the only ones waking up with themselves every day, going to bed with themselves every single day. And it has to be intrinsic. It has to come within. And so the only thing maybe I can do is there a spark that then they have the fire that they tend, and take that into, a flame of the life that they are capable of.
And I think that's great advice that other leaders can use on any scale, even with teams, in situations of thinking how to influence changing behavior. I think it's really great how you put that. And to wrap up, Andrew, we would love to know, what are you looking forward to next? Are you working on anything exciting you can share with us, or in general, anything that you can share?
Yeah, so it have to be a little bit vague. It'll launch in 24, but new venture is very much built on the concept of, we all have years of vitality within us, that as we age, you wake up and it hurts a little more, or you can't bend over to do this, or you're worried about mental impairment and other things. But we can stave those off. We can have more healthy years, more vital years. The phrase for this is health span. So we think of lifespan, how long we live, but health span's how many healthy years do we get? And there's so much we can do, free, cheap, or with resources, to invest in this. But it has to happen across 5 pillars, right? It's not just fitness and movement. It's not just nutrition. It's not just stress management and your mindset. It's not just sleep and recovery. And it's not just social connection. You actually have to have all of them. If you're missing any one, everything is pulled down. And almost no one thinks about that comprehensively. They'll really maximize on, oh, I'm a fitness and nutrition person. And they may be really hurting on social connection or hurting on the sleep. And they don't realize the detriment that that's causing to their healthy years and the vitality they could have in their life. And so my next venture is really very much around building the profile and the accessibility of health and vitality for anybody. It's out there. We don't need more products. We don't need more services. We need better accessibility. And it's all around that.
Really amazing and exciting. And I will personally keep an eye out for that, because I love everything to do with well-being, health, wellness, thinking about it holistically. So really exciting. Thank you so much, Andrew, for joining us today. Amazing insights. Really enjoyed having you on. And until next time.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much.